What else am I missing? Cosette. Oh. Is that about all of them? Oh, I know. Oh my goodness. Welcome, friends, to another of Cosette's Enchanted Journeys. What on earth am I doing? You are probably asking yourself right now. Wow, besides running out of breath, making myself tired, and being very, very silly, I was practicing being a whole host of barnyard animals. And it's okay, I will admit, I'm not very good at making barnyard animal sounds, but it's fun to try anyway. And I hope that you don't get too embarrassed when you can't execute something perfectly, and you keep doing it and trying and having fun anyway, because that's what I like to do, and I get better the more I practice. Anyway, Cosette and I were making barnyard animal sounds because today's story has to do with, you guessed it, barnyard animals. I don't want to give away too much, so without further ado, let's do our little bit of genie magic and take off on another of our enchanted journeys. You ready? I wish to go on an enchanted journey. Hi friends, you made it! I'm so glad that we were able to take my magic carpet to a special place to read another special story. Today I have for you Duck on a Tractor by David Shannon. I hope you enjoy it. Down on the farm, Duck sometimes got wild ideas. One day he decided he could ride a bike, so he did. Then he spotted the tractor. I bet I can drive a tractor, he said. The other animals weren't so sure, but they all said, well, if he can ride a bike, maybe he can drive a tractor too. Duck climbed on the tractor and looked around. He pushed some pedals and wiggled a metal stick, but nothing happened. Then a shiny little piece of metal by the steering wheel caught his eye. He pulled it out, he pushed it in, then he turned it. All of a sudden, the tractor shook and coughed and rumbled. It began to move. At first, it moved very slowly, and it jerked a lot, but it was fun. Duck drove around the barnyard until he got the hang of it. Then he stopped in front of all the other animals. "Climb on, everybody," shouted Duck. Dog was first. He jumped right up next to Duck. "Woof," said Dog, but what he thought was, "We're going for a ride." To everyone's surprise, Cow clambered on next. "Moo," said Cow. But what she thought was, this is the silliest thing I've ever done. Pig and Pig took a seat in the back. "Oink," said Pig and Pig. But what they thought was, this sure beats walking. Then came Chicken, Mouse, and Goat. "Squawk," said Chicken. But what she thought was, last one in is a rotten egg. "Squeak," said Mouse. But what she thought was, I can see everything from up here. "Ma," said Goat. But what he thought was, I'm hungry. Does the garbage dump have a drive-through window? I'm with Goat. I'm always hungry. Next up were Horse and Cat. Cat jumped up gracefully onto the tractor. Horse? Not so much. "Meow," said Cat. But what she thought was, I was going to take a nap, but this should be very interesting. "No," said Horse. But what he thought was, I think I'd rather walk. The only one left on the ground was Sheep. "Bah," said Sheep. But what she thought was, this is too dangerous. "Get on, Sheep," everyone shouted. But Sheep wouldn't budge, so Duck started driving away without her. "Wait," cried Sheep. "Don't leave me here all alone." She ran after the tractor and took a flying leap onto it. "Wah! Wah!" yelled Duck. But what he thought was, woohoo! I'm having fun trying to make all these barnyard animal noises. Have you ever tried to make all these barnyard animal noises? Duck steered the tractor down the lane and out onto the main road. And before long, they were driving right through the middle of town. It was lunchtime, so most people were in the diner. Then all looked around when Duck and the other animals passed by the big window. A little boy named Edison was having lunch with his grandma. "Did you ever?" Grandma gasped. But what she thought was, a duck on a tractor? That's impossible. "That's totally awesome," Edison shouted. But what he thought was, No one's gonna believe this. Marcine, the waitress, looked up from her pad and noticed a cat. Heavens to Betsy, she exclaimed. But what she thought was, I like cats. Deputy Bob blabbered, if that don't beat all. But what he thought was, how am I gonna explain this to the sheriff? A man named Otis chimed in. I must be seeing things. But what he thought was, oh no, not again. Holy cow, hollered Manny the cook. But what he thought was, holy cow. Manny usually said exactly what he thought. The mayor almost choked on his pie. Good gravy, he sputtered. But what he thought was, those pigs are even fatter than I am. Corky just whistled, but what he thought was, that duck is smarter than he looks. Gwen came out of the restroom. Would you look at that, she exclaimed. But what she thought was, I can't see a thing without my glasses. Farmer Odell observed, that's a dang nice tractor. But what he thought was, hey, that's my tractor. He decided he better go after it and ran out the door. Everyone else ran out too and chased after him. By this time, Duck had turned on to the next street. The tractor shuddered to a stop. Duck tried turning the shiny little piece of metal again. Nothing happened. I don't know much about spelling, said Dog, but I think that E means it's the end of our ride. Sheep cleared her throat. You know, she said, I think we might get in trouble for this. Let's get out of here, yelled Duck, just as Farmer Odell and everyone from the diner came around the corner. I don't think they believed their eyes. Everyone burst out laughing. Nah, they all said. It couldn't have been. It was an optical illusion, exclaimed Otis. Farmer Odell said he must have left his tractor running by accident. I guess that explains it, Deputy Bob agreed. They all went back to the diner to finish their lunch. And no one ever admitted that on that day they had seen a cow, a goat, a cat, a dog, a sheep, a chicken, a horse, 2 pigs, a mouse, and a duck on a tractor. The end. Well, that story was silly, wasn't it? Duck on a tractor and escaping the barnyard with all his animal friends. I have an activity for us today. Instead of escaping barnyard animals, how about we make a nice little barnyard pin and round them up and make a nice little place for them to all gather at. What do you say? You want to help me build one? Okay, let's go. So the fun part about today's project is we're going to be turning this egg into a piggy. Since we read the book about the duck on the tractor and how the farm animals escaped, I thought it would be fun if we made our own piggy and our own barn and tried to get our animals back to the barn. So the first step is we're going to be puncturing a hole in our egg on the top and on the bottom and actually blowing the egg goo out. It sounds really yucky, but it's kind of fun. So to do this, you're going to want to ask an adult for some help, but we're going to take a straight pin. If you have something like this, an adult might have one. You can use a safety pin if you don't have a straight pin like I have. And we're going to poke a hole very, very carefully at the top of the egg and one at the bottom of the egg. And then we're going to pick one side and we're going to use our mouths to blow and push the egg out of the hole into our bowl. And it's okay if it's not exactly centered on the top. As we know, eggs have a funny shape, so it's hard to get it right in the very center, but just push it in. Easy does it. Once you've done that, turn your egg over and do the other side. If your hole's too small, when you try to blow on it, you can try and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, you can see it's starting to come out there. I'm gonna try and widen my hole just a little bit more to really allow that egg to come out. If you have a cat or a dog, they might like the egg yolk that you send out. Oh, there we go, it's starting to come out now. I had to widen my hole a little bit more than I anticipated just so I could get that egg to come out of there. So what you're trying to do with this is you're trying to empty the egg without cracking the whole egg. And you'll know when it's emptied, it kind of makes a funny noise and it sounds pretty empty. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to carefully wash your egg with soap and water. So you got all your egg yolk out and you got your egg whites out, and then you clean off your egg, and you just want to be very gentle with anything you would do with the egg because it is now hollow and it's a fragile shell, so if you drop it, it has a tendency to want to crack and break. So you just want to be careful not to drop that or smash it or push too hard on it. The holes on the egg we're going to cover. One will become a tail and one will become a face. So don't worry about the holes that you had to make. Just be careful and dry it off, and you'll be ready for the next step. The next step is we're going to fold a piece of pink construction paper over a few times, and we're going to punch holes in it using our hole punch. As you see here, I have several pink punches punched out of construction paper. These are going to be covering the pig body. So to do this, once your egg is nice and dry, you're going to use a toothpick to help you. I've got this container of toothpicks. I'm just going to get one toothpick out. If you don't have a toothpick, you could use tweezers. You could use your finger if you're very careful. Pencil tip might work too. But we're going to use our glue, tacky glue that you have, and you're going to apply a little bit of glue to the narrow part of your egg. So that's this part here. I'm going to put some at the top part of the egg, and then you're going to take and apply your dots. You can use your toothpick to pick those up too. I'm not going to cover the hole that I made because I'm going to leave that there as a marker. That's where I'm going to put my snout later. And as you're covering, you can add more glue as needed. So I've got plenty of, whoops, look, I dropped my egg and it survived, yay! Be very careful, egg is a little slippery. You're going to just keep kind of layering the pink on top of each other so that there's no white egg showing between the dots. So you can add more glue as needed. Once you have your egg pretty well covered, with the exception of the hole on the bottom, that's where I'm going to add a tail, so that's why that's not covered, and the tiny little hole on the top, that's where I'm going to add a snout. You can go ahead and set this down and let it dry. Wash off your hands. If they're anything like mine, they might be sticking to your egg at this point because they've got some of that tacky glue on it. While your egg is drying with all its paper on it, or you've got your plastic egg ready to go, we can be working on our legs, our nose, and our mouth of our piggy. So for that, we're going to need our pencil and a piece of the pink construction paper. If you have that still from where you cut holes, you still have some room, you can cut some pieces. Otherwise, you might need a second piece of construction paper. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this paper into 4 equal pieces. That way, when I cut out one leg, I'll actually end up with 4 legs. That will save me some time in measuring, and then I'll know they're the same size. So the first thing we're going to need are 4 legs. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 4 legs. They are going to be, I'm going to need a piece of paper about the width of 2 craft sticks together. So if you have a couple of craft sticks set aside, you can use those. If you have a ruler and you want to measure out about 2 inches, you can do that, or you can just eyeball it. I do that a lot. And then for the length of them, probably only going to need about 1/3 of the craft stick's length, maybe about 2 inches. I'd say 2 inches wide by 2 inches long. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are going to be for my leg pieces, so I'm going to just set those to the side. The next thing I'm going to need are ears. I only need 2 ears, so I can unfold my paper. And I'm going to draw kind of like a raindrop shape or a teardrop sort of shape. But this one, I'm going to cut that out. There we go. I have 2 pig ears. If you're making your legs nice and wide, they should wrap around your pencil correctly. So you can go ahead and wrap it around the pencil, add some glue or tape, and fold that leg right on top. You might have to add a little bit of glue around the outside of the leg just so that it has a nice firm hold. As your pig's drying, you might take a look at it once it dries a little bit more and decide that it could use some more pink paper cutouts on it or some other detail, and that would be a good time after it dries. The other thing I'm going to do while it's drying is I'm going to give my pig a home, since in the Duck on the Tractor story that I left to the barnyard, I'm going to turn this cardboard container into a barn, and I'm going to give it a little silo next to it. Now you can do this with paint if you want. You could paint this whole thing to look like a barn and like a grain house next to it, or however you want to do it. I'm going to just use construction paper today. So I'm going to start by covering just the front of this with construction paper to show you an idea of how you can make this yourself. And welcome back to our magic lamp. I really enjoyed sharing Duck on a Tractor with you today and making some so-so animal sounds before we took off. And I really enjoyed making this little barnyard scene with you. I wonder how your piggies came out. I hope you enjoyed making them. And remember, if you don't want to make a piggy, you could also make this into a duck or a chicken. You can make a penguin. You can make all kinds of animals using this technique. Just be really careful with those eggs. They're fragile. What do you think, Cosette? Oh, I didn't show Cosette. I'm sorry. Come here, Cosette. What do you think of our piggy? That's Piggy for I love you, Cosette. Anyway, Cosette puts up with a lot of silliness from me, don't you? I hope you had a good time with me today. I hope you'll come back and visit again soon. Until then, take care, and we'll see you on another Cosette's Enchanted journey soon.